crepe myrtle are great summer and late summer blooming shrubs that you can have in a garden. And I wanted to show you this one here, and it's rather tall, and we're training this one to be more into a tree. And in a minute, I'm going to show you one that I've pruned to keep it shorter. Now, a lot of these hardier crepe myrtle have American Indian names, and a lot of research was done by the late Don Egolf on a lot of these somewhat mildew resistant and even Japanese beetle resistant crepe myrtles. One of my favorites, and I just picked a flower, is Catawba. And it doesn't get too tall, and it has nice green shiny foliage. So this is Sue, this is Catawba. I'm going to show you some other crepe myrtles. Probably within the top 3 crepe myrtles, I highly recommend Natchez. And the white may not be quite as pretty as Catawba, and I'm going to show you this one here in a minute, Hopi. But the Natchez is the hardiest of all the crepe myrtle. And if you ever get a cold time period, this is one that will do quite well. And I've kept this one pruned, so I've kept it shorter. Now, I'm Mark Viette, and I live in the Shenandoah Valley, and we prune these in the spring before new growth starts. We do not prune them in the fall. But some people will come in and deadhead certain varieties of crepe myrtle so they'll bloom again. Let me show you Hopi. And this is Hopi. Nice, it's shorter, not so big. I've not had to do a lot of pruning. There are 7 different categories of crepe myrtle. There are super dwarf, like 18 to 24 inches. Then there are some crepe myrtle that are 24 inches to 5 feet. Then some of the crepe myrtles are 6 feet to 10 feet. And then you've got 10 to 15 feet, 15 to 20 feet. And some of the crepe myrtles will get 40 or 50 feet in height. But these are great long summer blooming plants or shrubs that you can add to your garden. And if you look behind me, you can see the beautiful dynamite crepe myrtle, and you'll notice there's repetition in the garden. One of my recommendations is to repeat the colors and varieties that you have in your garden. But these crepe myrtle are limbed up so you can actually see through them. You can also see some of the limelight hydrangeas, which are beautiful summer blooming hydrangea. As to crepe myrtle, you can choose from hundreds and hundreds of varieties. I looked at a website the other day online, and they had available 150 different types of crepe myrtle that you could purchase. So there's probably maybe 1,000 varieties, and many of them have been created to be mildew resistant, and also some are Japanese beetle resistant. There's usually 7 types or classifications of crepe myrtle. Some crepe myrtle will only get 24 to 30 inches tall. Some are going to get 4 to 6 feet tall. There's some varieties that are going to get to a maximum of 12 feet. And in some cases, there are some varieties that could get 40 feet tall. The great thing about crepe myrtle that I personally like is if you have one And this one here is called Tonto. And a lot of these varieties were created by Don Egolf, and many of them have Indian names. But this is one that's been trained into a tree form. And there's 3, 4, 5, about 8 to 9 different trunks that come up. And so at a younger age, you can see where these were pruned. And the great thing about looking through the trunks is they do have a beautiful exfoliating bark. But when it comes to design, this plant here has a certain space. And you might not realize it, but when you look through it, in the back there's a fence, so the property doesn't extend, or the garden, that much further. But the fact that you can look through this, it's almost like you can imagine a garden 3 times bigger, because you're looking through this in the garden beyond. So the garden, if you have a small space, you can make that space feel much larger by having things like this that you prune so you can see through. Again, crepe myrtles are great to have in a garden. I usually like to prune crepe myrtles in mid to late spring, and they are great to deadhead. Depends on where you live. I'm Mark Viette, and I live in the Shenandoah Valley, and we can get pretty cold here. So in some cases, I like to wait till the threat of cold is finished, and I like to prune in May or the beginning of June, and you can deadhead the old seed pods off your crepe myrtle. Crepe myrtles are great for any of your gardens. This must be Mike's favorite boxwood, Justin Brower. And it looks like he has about 40 of these in the garden. Now, when you look past the patio, they have a beautiful garden pool.